What's up, everybody? My name is Brandon McCullum, also known as B-McC, and this is Nice Minds. I'm with a very, very, very special guest, Tearra Oso. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's been a crazy couple years, but I am managing. So I know of you. I was trying to think. I know I met you at Honey.
Oh, honey, I miss honey.
I miss it so much. But yeah, I think I met you. I can't even remember what year. I was trying to like go back and like pictures and flyers and just so I could like pinpoint exactly what show it was. But I want to say it was something. I know it was something. I think you were the host. I want to say maybe Christopher Michael Jensen booked it. Does that ring a bell?
Maybe, yeah. I was like at Honey, I know for a while I was hosting we did Galactic Soul Orchestra, but then we started doing 678s where we'd pick like a year from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and then we would like play music during that time. But then with Christopher, I think we were doing stuff with Face Forward. So that could have been
I think so.
what it was.
Yep.
But you know, in Minneapolis, you're hitting up Honey and Nomad and Ice House.
Yep.
Or I guess Ice House wasn't necessarily open 10 years ago, but maybe like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I was out of town for a while. I'd be going back and forth, but yeah, I really miss Honey. I would love for John to do something else because we had a lot of fun shows down there and it was just such a good vibe. It was underground, the lighting, they had really good house nights there.
Yep.
People coming from out of town, like it was really beautiful.
Honey always treated us right. I mean,
Mhm.
from John the owner to John the sound guy, like everybody there just was just super nice, super accommodating. I mean, it was like, even if we didn't, I would always beat myself up when I didn't have like good numbers in a show. And like John and John were both super cool. They didn't care. They liked us. They liked the vibe that we brought. And as long as, we were keeping things chill and, putting on good shows, that's all that mattered to them. And that was dope. I mean, not to get into too much about Honey, but like, what is John up to now?
I'm not sure. I haven't talked to him in a while. And like I said, I was out of town for a while. And so the closing of Honey was like super shocking to me. I don't know if other folks already knew it was going to happen, but
Yeah,
I didn't know. We're still on social media. I'm going to hit him up after this and see.
I should get him on the podcast if he'd be willing to. That'd be sweet.
Yeah.
So more about you. I mean, I know you're a musician, actress, model, and an all-around amazingly just talented individual. How'd you get started with music?
Music, man. I think the first thing that was really awesome and important to me was bomba, the Afro-Caribbean traditional music that I do. I had like a really difficult childhood, but I stayed over at a cousin's house and she was going to this dance class the next morning. So her mom asked if I could go too. And this became this thing that I was able to focus on and not focus on any of the other things that were difficult for me and just pour my everything into it. And it was also amazing too, because this music, I was learning it in Minnesota. This Puerto Rican woman was teaching us this traditional Afro-Puerto Rican music. It was dance, song, and drums in Minnesota, and she would bring people up from Chicago and then eventually from Puerto Rico who were teaching us all of these things. And then we would do classes throughout the year, and then we'd have summer programs. And then I eventually ended up teaching some programs too, teaching dance. But that really got me into understanding the different rhythms that are West African rhythms. So the people that created this music, they were enslaved Africans that were on the sugarcane plantations in Puerto Rico, and they took their rhythms from West Africa and brought them to Puerto Rico. And then they sang songs in Spanish because they were told by their colonizers that they could only speak Spanish. So the songs were in Spanish, and I didn't speak Spanish. And I think it's such an interesting thing with my generation. And I feel like we're kind of around the same generation. but it's a lot of second generation Americans that don't feel very close to our culture before America. And there's a lot of reasons for that. You know, a lot of it is assimilation, a lot of it is shame. So I know a lot of Latinx people don't speak Spanish or don't know their culture. So yeah, just really being able to focus on music, but then also being able to learn Spanish and then learn the music was really, really beautiful and helpful for me. And then I just got into a bunch of music in school too. I was like doing choirs, and that really got me into harmonies. And so I understand like um, just the alto harmonies are really fun for me. I would sing soprano a lot, and then I ended up reading music at 9 when I started playing flute. It was really fun when I saw Lizzo like getting down on the flute. I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
girl, you better get that flute. But yeah, just bomba, and then in school, and then I would just pick up whatever I could. I would play keys. I ended up picking up guitar. So I'm not like super amazing at guitar, but I know my chords. I ended up, you know, you'd go online and find the tabs for songs or just try to play like when you hear stuff. I know one of the first songs I learned was that every morning when the halo coming
Oh,
from
that's
the corner.
awesome. That
You
Sugar
know,
Ray
I was like,
song,
oh, I
yeah.
have to know that. Like
That's amazing.
so, you know, music really just was there for me and was such a focal point for me. So I was like, any chance that I would get, I would just like figure something else out.
That is awesome. So has your culture, what is your background, by the way?
Everything, all the things. Yeah. So I just did my ancestry.com, and it was like a lot of different things. The main things were Spanish from Spain, Mexico, indigenous Mexican, and African.
Oh, okay.
That's what we talk about, the African diaspora, because in Puerto Rico, there were indigenous Taino people there. And then the Spanish colonized
Mm-hmm.
those indigenous people, and then they stole Africans from Africa and brought them there. So the people that were born out of the 1500s and on can be any mix of those people. So some Puerto
Yeah.
Rican people are just Spanish or just African. And like my grandmother is really black and my grandfather was a lot lighter, so he was Spanish. So I'm definitely the spawn of the colonizers and the colonized. So yeah, and then my grandmother, my mom's mom, was Mexican, and then she married a man who was Irish and Polish.
Oh,
So
wow.
in the short, I would say Puerto Rican, Mexican, Irish, Polish, but what does that actually mean? African. And then I saw like Russian in there too. I'm like, wow, okay.
That's
Just
interesting.
all the things. I think that's why I'm so understanding and loving, because I just am connected to a lot of different people.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure of my background at all, really. I mean, I
Mhm.
know Irish, German, French, but as far as I know, Native American,
Wow.
which might be why I feel connected to, people as well. But I don't know. I have to do an ancestry test because I mean, it's always been, and I feel like a lot of people have that in their family where it's like, oh, our, great, 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 great was a Cherokee princess, or that's like the lore in my family, and I've heard that in a lot of people's families. So I don't know if that's quite true, but supposedly I'm part Cherokee. But I would love to do a ancestry background thing.
If you want to, you should do it.
I love learning about other cultures, and I love hearing about people's backgrounds. It is just, to me, it's super fascinating, and I just really respect it, and just being somebody that doesn't know my background, I love when people know what their heritage is and they celebrate it. And
Mhm.
has it something, you mentioned that you learned that in school. Have you always incorporated like your heritage and stuff in your music, or is that something that's been more recent in the last few years?
The marriage of the traditional Afro Puerto Rican music and the more R&B, hip hop, funk, pop kind of stuff is really new. Like the shows that I would do before were kind of like a separate thing. And like if I had an hour long, I would do maybe 30, 40 minutes of like R&B, pop, hip hop stuff. And then we would like transition into bomba and we would do traditional songs. We wouldn't do any new songs really. Um, I know I would play with Two for One. I don't know if you know Two for One,
Sounds familiar.
Rafi. He's native and Puerto Rican, but he would like rap sometimes, you know, over some bomba rhythms. And then really I saw this grant opportunity from the Cedar Cultural Center. I just got an email about it and they give out grants every year, 6 grants to artists to do 30 to 45-minute shows. And just seeing that, I was really inspired. I hadn't really played any of my own music at that time. I had an infant, so I was really focused on just like providing for him and being there for him, feeding him. And seeing that grant, it was like, you have to think about how you're going to be impactful with what you're doing. And around that time, George Floyd had just been murdered. I also went to school with Philando. We were in
Oh
theater class
wow.
together. He was just a year older than me. So I was really affected by that too. And yeah, I was like, you know what? Like this bomba music, this traditional music was born from my ancestors while they were enslaved, you know. They had their West African rhythms in their bodies. A lot of things were stripped from them, but they had those rhythms in their bodies. And they took these rum barrels from the sea that would wash up on the shores in Puerto Rico in this foreign land. And they would find sheep or goat and put hide over them. And when they had one day off in the week, they would play these rhythms. And then they started to create songs that were talking about what was going on. So sometimes it was kind of like a newspaper. We call it Griot. And so they would do that, or sometimes like one of the songs called Campo, the translation to English is, if I don't dance this bomba, I'm going to die. Right? Like I just want to cry just like thinking about it. But they got through enslavement. They connected to their ancestors, that strength, through playing that music. And I was like, man, this could be a great opportunity for me to modernize this traditional art form, and write some songs about what's going on right now. That's what they did. They wrote some music about what was happening. Let me do that. Like if y'all can give me some funds so I can like
Yeah.
focus on the music for a while. And then I ended up getting it. I got the grant and I was able to pay out some amazing friends, and most of them that I grew up with playing this music. So they knew the rhythms too. And I wrote music in English and Spanish. And I have a song about Philando. All of it is really for activists. And that was another thing too. Like as a parent, I couldn't, I didn't want to be on the front lines anymore. I didn't want to put my body on the line, and like didn't want to bring my son out there. And so I felt bad about that. And I'm like, what can I do? Um, I was, and I still am teaching like breathing techniques. So like teaching folks how to calm their nervous system. And I learned about the biology of stress and how to transform that even with our breath. So I was like, wow, it's really important for especially folks who are putting their bodies on the front lines to have tools that can help remind them of ways that they can calm themselves, or sometimes ways that they can get that energy out, that trauma, that pain. And also to hear lyrics from somebody that hears them and wants them to know that they are noticed and they're appreciated and loved. So yeah, it's really because of that Cedar grant that I like took that traditional music and combined it with newer pop, R&B, funk music. And then I did that it was like a 40-minute show. And then I applied for another grant to record the music. And so that really brought it to a whole new level of adding more synth and guitar and bass, adding drum kit on top of the percussion. So I had some help with that. And so that's what I've been doing the past year. Just finished that album. Like, this is my first full-length album. Like, super exciting and crazy.
That's amazing.
But yeah, it was like all from Minnesota grants that the inspiration and motivation to do it. The Minnesota grants, and then also the activism and the people that are standing up for justice in these streets.
I know you're gonna do just amazing work going forward, and you're gonna help so many people with what you're creating and the opportunities that you're giving people with those grants. That's awesome.
Thank you. And I want to say too, I named the album Prez for different reasons. One of them is self-preservation practices. And like I said, growing up, like, I didn't have somebody tell me you have to have tools in your tool belt to calm yourself,
Yep.
to metabolize your pain, to make yourself feel better, to expel negative energy, to release tension that's caught up in your heart and your back and your legs. Like, you need to know how to get that stuff out. I didn't have anybody tell me that.
Same.
And I think we don't really hear that in school,
Yep.
right? Like, we're starting to hear more about meditation, and that's like slowly coming into certain curriculums, but it was just really important for me to put something out there, and I hope folks hear it, and I hope folks get it and like are able to use it. So I have songs that are really calming, that are meant to either have you say affirmations or have you like take breaths and do hums. Humming is a really good one too, which is kind of the same as singing. You're creating vibrations in your body, which is breaking up tension within, like, physical tension in your body. Because you think about stress, like a stress ball, you can get that out of you. It's like clogging your arteries if you don't do anything about it. So yeah, some of the songs are slower and some of them are faster. Some of them are for dancing it out. Some of them are for playing those rhythms. You know, playing those rhythms is calling on our ancestors. And I think that's another important thing too that I didn't realize until I was older. Like, there have been people in our bloodline that went through some craziness and they survived, and they're the reason why we're here. Like, we can call on them. We can learn about what they were doing and do it. Like, it's important for us to know. So yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Something that you said really resonated with me about the stress and not really knowing how to deal with it because we're not taught. And I really started to think about that with my own life when you said that. I mean, because my mom passed last year, and I, especially lately, I've been just thinking about the way I was raised and the way that I was brought up, and my stress and my trauma and just everything has really kind of just come to the surface a lot in the last year. And I think that it's so important to have more people like you who are dedicated to creating things to help people with stress and with trauma, and especially people of color as well. And so I really commend you for that. And I watched a couple of your new music videos too. Your newest one, I really like what you've been doing, and the production value is crazy good too. I mean, it's just, it looks great, sounds great. I mean, you're doing really good things out there.
Thank you. Yeah, the first one I did, I did a lot of it just on my own. You know, I modeled before, and so I met a lot of people that are super talented and learned a lot about makeup and hair and wardrobe, fashion. I also have studied film for a long time. I've studied at the U, and then just living out in LA, I did a lot of production work and stuff. So I was like, well, I can do some stuff on my own. And since it was COVID, I was like, yeah, let me just like do as much as I can on my own. And I think that's really important for folks to just get started, you know, like don't bog yourself down. Well, really, you got to do what's best for you. Cause some people are like, it's got to be perfect or I'm not putting it
Yep.
out. And that's cool. If that's you, that's what you want to do. You should do that and listen to your heart. And for me, I was like, this is really great. And maybe I could ask more people to help me and whatever, but like this first song drum piece was kind of stripped down anyways. And so I, you know, worked with my two friends, Andres and Truly. So there was two of us doing vocals. And so I was like, we just need us two in the video. And we had Andres help us with the video. And I found a really cool spot at Franconia Sculpture Park. I don't know if you've been there.
No, where's that?
Oh my gosh, it's like it's off the St. Croix River, so like by Taylor's Falls over
Oh,
there.
okay.
It's not that far. It's like kind of by Stillwater, but they have really cool sculptures there, and one of them is like this blowing blue. It looks like fabric, but it's like a little thicker, and it was just really calming. I'm like, this is perfect. And I shot some scenes by my house outside. We've got some like looks like wheat fields or something, but yeah, I took some time, whether it was 3 a.m. when my son's sleeping or whenever I could, to like build these just little, not even really stories, but just the the importance of being in that space of whether it's pain or sadness. You know, I think a lot of us have seen a lot of sickness and a lot of death. So I was like really wanting to tap into that, and then thinking about how to calm yourself about it. So yeah, so that video just was really more minimal. And then for Griot del Rio, the last one we just did, I was like, oh yeah, how about why don't I hit up my boy Michael Haug, because we've done some work together and he's really amazing, and I know that he can light inside really well and he knows how to shoot really well, and he was down. I hit up my friends at Fox Face Studios in St. Paul. I've worked with them a lot. Um, it's like my girl Mandy, she owns this salon with her husband. Like, so cool. So asked her if she could do my makeup, and she did. I did my own hair. I did really like pull just like looking up inspiration and really helping people give direction, because for me, if I'm asking people, and maybe this is like a trauma response, like I don't want to ask people for nothing,
Yep.
but if I do, I want to help them to like know what I'm looking for, so we're all happy and like knowing what we're trying to do and not taking up so much time trying to like figure stuff out. So yeah, I did that, hit up my girl Davi. I was like, um, to do the last like scene that we did with Michael Haug, I was like, are you able to pull some looks for me? I'm looking for 3 looks, and one of them's going to be like, whatever. One's casual, but like upscale, but then one is like a dress, and then one, whatever. And she did, and that was really cool. And then there were a couple of other designers that I saw online. And for me too, like, it's so cool just growing. I don't know if I want to say growing up, but just like throwing stuff out there and not telling yourself like, oh, they don't have time, or they're gonna not
Yep.
gonna want to whatever. And it's like, you know what, I'm something in my heart told me to reach out to Danielle Everine, and I'm telling myself if she don't have the time, or she's not available, or not, or whatever, that's going to be okay. But I'm told to ask her, and so I did, and she let me borrow this beautiful coat. And then I worked with Hi Hi Creative. They had this beautiful white dress. It's like all sculpture. I'm like, this is so crazy. And it's really back to how I wanted to showcase Minnesota artists, because there's so much amazement here,
Yep.
even in fashion. It's why I really like to incorporate fashion when I'm doing music, because why not? It's tight and like it just elevates everything. So yeah, and then my friend Rick, like he really helped with the production on this. I played synth in the beginning, and then he's the bass player from Mint Condition.
Oh, nice.
He added, yeah, so he added guitar riffs at the end. He like surprised me. I came in the studio and I was like, you played that, huh? He's like, oh yeah. Just like no big deal. Like, this is so tight.
Mint Condition did Pretty Brown Eyes, right?
Yeah, that
That's my
like
jam.
blew up this year too.
Yep.
So it's been really exciting, like seeing folks get into that. And it's like, yeah, it's our Minneapolis people.
Yep.
And just like, yeah, art that is really great transcends time.
Yeah, I mean, something you said I really relate to as well. I mean, like, I don't like asking people for stuff as well, and but when I do, and when I, when I'm like, "Hey, I got this really good idea," generally people are willing to help. People are willing to help out, and um, the DIY spirit. I mean, it's just kind of like pulling together your resources and figuring out who's good at what, and just putting it all together. I think that's amazing, and like I said, like your videos, they look great, they sound great, and man, you're just killing it. You're killing it.
Thank you. Yeah, and you know what? When we ask folks for things, like that ends up bringing us closer together too.
Yep.
And I've realized that in times where you're like, oh, I need help and I don't want to need help. And then it's like, you're so much closer to this handful of people because you needed help. And you're like, maybe it was good I needed help.
Definitely. Um, so what kind of obstacles have you had to face in your life and career to get to where you are today? Like what's kind of inspired you to want to help people in the way that you do?
I would say like the main thing is, and it's what's so empowering to me too, is like generational trauma. Generational trauma. So like I said, we're kind of around the same like generation, and without getting too specific into things, there was a lot of drugs, a lot of like negative things pushed onto our parents, like for real.
Yep.
Like it wasn't just like, oh, I'm a bad person. It's like things were pushed onto folks on purpose. And then we weren't taught how to manage our pain.
Yep.
We were brought to this new land. We were pushed out to the edges and the outskirts in so many different ways. Their parents didn't know all of the things that we know now, or that at least I know now, and a lot of us who are healing what we know. And that provides for a shaky foundation, you know what I mean? So with that, I wasn't really taught how to manage my emotions. I wasn't taught to understand who I am. I wasn't necessarily taught where I came from. And so, like, having that shaky foundation just kind of put me in this world where folks could say or do things. And a lot of children are kind of mean, okay? Like,
Facts.
and I don't want to blame them, because just like I said, like if you're not taught how to be different, then how would you know? But I didn't know how to deal with that. If I had people putting gum in my hair, people telling me I'm ugly, like it really affected me really negatively. There was some other situations that I got into that are more serious, like sexual assault kind of stuff, even at like the age of 13, like crazy stuff. And I didn't know how to deal with that. So that was really difficult. But I will say, first of all, the music that I told you about, this Afro Caribbean music. And my dance teacher, Mila, like she was so cool. And she was somebody that I felt comfortable to open up to. And so she was somebody that I could talk to, and somebody who pushed me to see, I don't want to say my talent, but like to see the possibilities of music and how music and dance and drums can be a part of your life. So that was really beautiful. And then I went to Central High School, and one of the things that I was involved in was the Black Box Theater, with Jan Mandel. And she was really amazing too. And I actually work with her now with the health and wellness stuff, the Irreducible Grace Foundation. So I did have some mentors and adults who had really learned how to use art, theater, music to get us to focus on positive things, but also get us to channel our lives and like do something good and build and learn how to write and learn how to, you know, get these stories out. Like that's what we did in the Black Box. We would write our own plays and then perform them all over. We were like in Anoka and whatever. Like these kids from St. Paul was really cool. So, you know, it was a lot of trying to understand like what I could do about the whackness of the world.
Yep.
But I think sometimes when it gets so bad, you just have to sit with yourself and think like, how could I get out of this? How can I get better? And maybe that's why I feel like my heart is so good. Like I really always want to do the right thing. And I was talking to my sister about what maturity means. And I'm like, I think it means that you're able to see the big picture and you try to do what's right for like the most people. And of course you want to take care of yourself and make sure you're good first, but you want to like take care of people, especially your people. And so I've really just been able to look at the big picture with everything and just be in flow with what I would say. I'm spiritual and not necessarily religious.
Same.
But I think I'm on God's time, I'm on God's plan, and I just always do what I feel is right in the moment. I try to stay motivated. I actually did get my first hater comment on my Griot del Rio video, and it was so bad that I was like, I kind of laughed for a second and I was like, oh, that's really sad. If somebody is really calling me out my name and saying bad things about me, whether they know me or not, from this piece of art, like they must be struggling mentally. Like,
Yeah.
like,
I got a comment on one of my podcast videos. It was just trash. That's all they said. Trash. I'm like, what didn't you like about it? Like, can you be more specific?
can I get some constructive criticism?
Yeah. Like, I didn't like the way that you said this to this person, or like, I didn't like what they said to you, or like, you know, what about it was trash? Give me some constructive criticism. Yeah. People are just haters.
Yeah, but you know, and then I'm looking at it from just a bird's eye perspective, not like how do I feel that this person is saying something to me. It's like, okay, you not right,
Yep.
something ain't right over there, and like I hope you find happiness. And I listen to people like Gary Vee. I think that's really helpful too, to like
Yeah,
listen to
I do
folks
too.
who are good at what they do and just like their advice. And it's like, you gave me a view though.
Yep.
You gave me some energy. Like it must have like sparked something in you to say something, because
Right.
it was powerful at least a little bit, you know.
Yep.
Like, but I really do hope that even if it's selfish, like I hope everybody finds happiness in their hearts, partly because I don't want you to like mess with me or
Right.
like my people. But yeah, like the opposite of love is just really hard in
Yeah.
the world, and I just really want everybody to have what they need, you know.
I totally agree, and I think about that often. I think about other people's happiness and just especially with like with my family and friends, just how I wish that I could like being out of control of other people's emotions. Sometimes I think really bugs me. Like I can't do more for certain people, and I mean a lot of what you're saying is pertaining to my life right now, and I won't go into too many details publicly. I mean, maybe I will down the road, but just
Mm,
a lot of shit has been brewing since my mom passed, and
mm.
um, so yeah, like something that you said really resonated, and yeah, I just want everybody to be happy, and it really makes me sad when they're not, and I have to kind of learn to. I've had to learn that I can't control that, and to just be happy with myself and
Yeah,
hope that other
exactly.
people find their own happiness as well.
Hmm.
That's something I've really had to learn.
But that is really important to make sure that you're good and
Yep.
that you are leading that example of what you want to see, because an eye for an eye gonna make the whole world blind. It's like,
Yep.
how can I can't force anybody to do anything. But if I'm just like happy, good, creating boundaries and but like you can't say anything about me because I'm going to keep it positive, then what are you going to do? Like you
Right.
you just going to hit a wall, and you either going to change or you going to leave me alone, like somewhere in those lines. So yeah, all we can do is really take care of ourselves. And this is again too why I think self-preservation practices are so important. And it's so funny that like healing is so cyclical, because you think that passed a hurdle and you're like,
Yep.
oh, I'm so proud of myself, I got past this thing and it's great. And then it's like
Two steps back.
all of a sudden, yeah, you're like, so, or something that wasn't even happening right now is like affecting you, and you're like, how come? And it's like, because like this is life, like it's beautiful, we're growing, we're spiritual beings living this human experience, and our spirits wanted to grow, so that's why we're here. That's at least what I believe. And like we're getting these opportunities to make these choices to grow if we want to. And if we don't want to grow, I'm sure you've seen, if you don't want to learn a lesson, you just gonna be handed the lesson again in a very similar way or a different way. And it's like, okay, did you get the lesson? Are you as patient as you think you are? Are you as happy or nice as you said that you wanted to be? Show me if
Yep.
you mean it. Like I look at it like that, and it's really helpful. And I want to say, I'm really sorry to hear about your mom.
Thank you.
I can't imagine like the heartache and how hard that it could be. And I'm sure with like family ties and stuff, I know things get really hard. And like I said, I'm saying this from not even knowing anything about what you're going through. But like it's hard with family. You just when you're like, am I supposed to love you anyways? Or like
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, you just gotta take care of yourself. And I think too, like how they say you ain't gotta get ready if you stay ready. Like that's not just with performing, that's with our souls and our spirits. You want to come up here? And like come up the stairs. We have to do that for ourselves, because life is so hard and things get so crazy. And if we have this strong foundation to take care of ourselves, it's going to be a little bit easier to get through the stuff. Do you want to see my buddy?
Oh yeah.
You want to say hi?
Hi. Nice to meet you. What's your name?
What's your name? Archie. Good job. How old are you? And what is me? Yeah.
So cute.
Mhm.
I don't have any kids, but my niece just turned 2, and uh it's just so cool to see people that you're related to grow up, and just the like my niece looks just like my mom, and it's crazy.
Wow.
Like has her smile and everything. It's just so cool.
I still can't believe I'm a mom sometimes. I'm like, you're a human and you're my kid. Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, that's really cool. That's awesome. So what advice would you give younger artists, particularly young women who want to get into music? What do you wish that you would have known when you were starting out? And I think you might have covered a lot of that, but
Mhm.
any advice that you would give to like a younger woman, like say that was in your shoes 15 years ago, getting their start?
I would say with anything, first of all, just follow your heart and what you're doing. And by that, I mean, follow your joy or follow what makes you feel good. So if that means playing music, if that means just listening to music, do all the things that make you feel good. Um, I would say one of the things that I feel like that is not as fun is I feel like I spent a lot of time working with folks who I ended up not liking after we did some really cool music. So I would think about, you know, what part of the project that you are doing that you can use later. Like sometimes you can use it as a learning experience. Like, oh man, like I really got better at my lyricism, or I really like got better at recording in this phase. And like, even though I'm not using this music later on, like that really helped me grow as a person. So you can look at it like that too. But also if you wrote those lyrics and you don't want to use that beat from that person, then Pops, go back upstairs, okay? I'll be right there, okay? Okay, you can stay down here, but you gotta be quiet, okay? So like think about like what you're bringing to the table, and if you want to work with folks, like just follow your heart and realize like what you are okay with and what you're not okay with. I think another important thing to realize is it's so weird because I'm kind of trying to figure out the ways that I want to talk about the topic of like manipulation of people. I think when I was younger, I tended to talk to folks who were a little bit older than me. And sometimes that's great. Sometimes you learn from folks that have been through more things than you. And sometimes there are folks that, and we don't know what their intentions are, but some folks just have their own intentions, and they don't necessarily care about your well-being and your happiness and like your growth. And I think it's important to understand that happens, and that can take up a lot of time in your life. Sure. You gotta be quiet though, okay? So again, like follow your heart, whether that's with what you're doing specifically, like with music, or if that's people that you are working with. Never feel bad if you're not vibing with somebody. Don't feel bad if you don't want to finish something with them or whatever. Like, do what you want to do, because I don't know why we're here, but we are here in this space and time that is like never going to exist again. So we might as well do what we can and make the best of it while we can. And we're not here forever, right? Like we're not in this shell forever. So you really gotta just like make the most of it. I would say too, like for me, I'm so grateful for my health. And I think like that's something to be really real about.
Yep.
Like not everybody has the abilities that you have. And we really need to realize that. And we're not always gonna have the abilities that we have. So strive to just do your best and to get better. there are a lot of people out here. I think imposter syndrome is huge too, where folks
Yeah.
are like, oh, I'm not the best singer, I'm not the best producer, I'm not the best this or that. Like, it ain't got to be about the best. You can like
Yep.
Beyonce and Alicia Keys and, Mary J. and all these different people take up different pockets of our lives and give us different things, and you do that too, and you are not your gifts, you are not what you give to other people. I believe that we are here and we're born worthy, and everybody should know that, like, you're a human, you get to exist, and I really hope that you are awesome to other people. But if you're not, that doesn't mean that you're not worthy. I just hope that you like learn to
Yep.
get to that maturity, you know what I mean? But yeah, just make the best of everything while you can and learn what you can too. That's what's so wild about this technology. Like, you can look up anything. And I think there was a lot of times where I would kind of rely on friends that already knew stuff to try to do things. But it's like, okay, if I'm having a problem with logic, let me Google it and watch a YouTube and figure it out.
Yep.
Like, sometimes that's what you got to do. And then you're going to be empowered, and then you're going to be that much more skilled in what you're doing. There's so much to do, especially with music. Like, you even need your artwork, you know what I mean? Like, your thumbnail, you need that square of what is going to represent your music. Like, there's so many different parts to it. And like I said, now, like, there's live shows that you could do, but there's also just recording. There's some people that just want to sing to their family or want to sing at weddings. Like, there's so many different ways. Pops, you gotta be quiet, okay? Yeah. He's been so wild. Like, he hung out with his friends that are a little bit older than him. And one of them started doing gymnastics the other day. And I swear, after that, he is just like a whole new person. Like, he was like, you want to do cartwheels, mama? I'm like, I knew it. I knew that's why you were like on all fours, like doing this weird thing. Anyways,
my niece started gymnastics, and
really?
she just loves jumping. That's her thing. So she's just super into jumping, and
Aww.
it's gonna be really interesting to see how, like, well, how your son grows up and how like my niece grows up. I mean, that's it's super interesting because, like, I feel like kids do develop like what they're gonna be into, sometimes at a very young age like that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I started with art stuff when I was like 3, and I
Mm-hmm.
started being creative when I was like super super little. So, and that's never left. I mean, it's morphed in and turned into different things, but I feel like it's kind of embedded in us at young ages sometimes. So it's just gonna be really interesting to see how the next generation grows up and what they'll be into and what they'll be passionate about.
And know that you can start anything at any time too.
Yep.
Like, if you started something at 2, amazing. If your best friend started something at 2 and you didn't,
Yep.
like, be comfortable being bad at something
Yep.
before you're great at it. Otherwise, you're just not ever going to do it.
Yep.
And that's not fun. Like, let's make something out of this masterpiece we call life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, at any time. And if that means that you're not going to show anybody what you're doing yet, then you can do that. But I feel like patience is so important.
Absolutely.
And what I'm learning, like what I learned with this album too, like, I ended up re-recording vocals on a few of the songs, like 20 times, like, straight up, because of this or that or the other, whether it was levels or like sounds in the back, or just like the take. I know I am getting to know my voice more. I think I thought I understood my voice because I was like, oh yeah, I'm softer and I really like Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson. And so I like that feeling, but it's like, I'm soulful too, but I want to be strong too. So like to really just practice. And I would say too, like, there are times that I was out of the studio for a while and I would come back and I didn't feel like I was that good recording. Like my takes weren't like industry level, and I was like feeling a little frustrated, but still trying to have that patience of like, it's okay. And I swear, like after some time, after you really warm up your voice for vocals, maybe you gotta warm up your fingers if you're playing different instruments. Like sometimes that warming up will make such a difference. Sometimes it's a couple days, sometimes it's like a half hour, but really like learn about how to warm up and like do it. And that's gonna put you in that position to really get it out in the best way.
It's been absolutely amazing to talk with you this evening. I mean, this is one of the best episodes by far. I mean, it's been a very, very I feel like people are going to get a lot out of listening to this, and
Yay.
You dropped a lot of knowledge gems and nuggets. And do you have any last words that you want to leave the people with, whether it be more gems or something you're working on, whatever?
Again, technology is so wild. So just like get out there. If you're even just listening to podcasts or listening to YouTube videos while you're driving, if you have a job that you can listen to stuff, like that's been really helpful in my life. And again, like you can start anything at any time. Like don't ever feel like you're not good enough, because you're deserving, you're worthy. You get to do stuff, like flex your abilities while you can, you know what I mean, while you're on this earth. I am super excited that, so the album is available everywhere on April 22nd. That is Earth Day. So I am thinking about different ways that I can be nice to the earth and try to remind her that I love her very much. So I've been doing different things with like the products that I'm using. I started using bamboo toilet paper and paper towels. And really they're like thinner than other things, but you can use like a thicker paper towel if you really needed it. But a lot of times you don't. You know? Mama? Sure, hold on 1 minute, okay? I'll help you. Just things like that. Like we're voting with our dollars, you know, so really look at like what we're doing. Papa, please, I'll be right with you, okay? Come here. It's okay. So I'm thinking about things to do to lead up to that April 22nd date. And then April 22nd, it was also the first date that there was a revolt, enslaved people revolt in America in the 1500s. So that was really interesting to me too, to think about, you know, this traditional music that I'm incorporating and using as a foundation for what I'm doing. So I want to talk about that too. And then I am playing the intermission for the final fashion show of Minnesota Fashion Week on April 30th. That's going to be at the Aveda Institute in Northeast. So I'm really excited about that. I've loved Aveda forever. I've worked with Aveda a lot of times, learned so much from the folks there, love the smells. And this is going to be a big show. So I was super honored to be asked to play during the intermission. I'm just like, whoa, this is so cool.
That's awesome. Congrats.
And then on for May Day on May 1st, we're going to do some bomba. I'll have to let you know what time we're going to do it.
Thank you so much for joining me today, for giving me the time and talking with me and sharing everything. I really appreciate you, and you're somebody that I admire, and I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you. And thank you for doing this. Like, folks, we need more love and peace in the world. So I appreciate you for doing this too.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate you.